We're doing our halachot of mourning, the laws of Sisit. He says, it's a mitzvah never to leave home without it, your talit katan. He says, our personal custom of Sephardic is we don't make a blessing on it. Because anyways, we say a blessing on the what? The big one. So it says, Anu noagin shelo lebarich al talit katan. But what do you need to do? This is another reason you need to be zerizut. Because if you come late to a kenisa, when you make a bracha on the big one, you should kill two birds with one stone. Which means what? Have that the bracha, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher qaddashanu v'sotav v'tzivanu leitatef v'sisit is also going on what? The small one.
So you say have it in mind?
Yeah. Our minhag is not when you wake up in the morning after you do netilah to say bracha on this. You can, if you want. The bracha is al mitzvat sisit.
Yeah.
But it's more praiseworthy to just... And there's a reason for that, because a lot of people, this talit, they don't check it. It becomes sometimes like ripped, and then they come to do a mitzvah, they sing a bracha on something not kosher. So it's kind of like, it's just better to do it this way. That's what the Mishnah, even the Mishnah Brura paskins this way for the Ashkenazim, the Chafetz Chaim. So he says, he says, if you really do, if it's like whatever, your father used to always say a bracha and you really want to do it, you have to be sure something very important. And that is, the talit katan has to be at least 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet. Which means if it's a tiny one that only comes on top of your belly button, like both sides, that's not kosher.
It's to be like this.
Yeah, it has to be enough that it's like, I think I once went through it, has to be a minimum in the sizes nowadays, is like size 20 or something. A small kid could have a smaller size, but adult should not be wearing like a teeny one. Remember, like we said last time, the deformed people, they have it like a scarf. It should be covering at least most of your body. That's why actually Chacham Netaneli, Shelita holds that it's better, even if since these small talits are so unkosher that people use them as scarf. He says in such places that people wear it like that, it's better not to have your kid wear talit. Even though Sephardic, really from like 8-9 years old, the kid should wear a small talit. But since shuls that are like ours, that people by mistake don't know anything about halacha, use it as a scarf. He said, I said, just wait till he's like 11, 12, you buy him a big one. It's sad. So it should be like length and width should at least be like 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet, like a little bit less or more. Then you could say the bracha. What's the bracha? It's not the same bracha as leitatef. It's al mitzvat sisit, right? Ra'ui v'nachon she'sfaradim u'menam talit achad b'gdehem. Oh wow! I gave a whole class on this. Did you watch that class? I gave like a 1-hour class on this. He says our minhag is not like the Chabad to. Did you watch that class? You should. I'll send you the link. I'll put the link actually in the bottom of this YouTube video. Our custom is that we do not wear it out.
In public. At home you can.
Yeah. I'm saying there's no sin to keep it out.
Right.
It's just our custom is to keep it in. Now, if you're exercising and it comes out, that's nothing. You understand? We don't have to specifically.
It's just our minhag. It's just our custom.
It's not our custom specifically to put it out, the strings. You understand? Now, for whatever reason, it's more comfortable for you to put it out, or you want to put it out because sometimes you have a polo shirt and it's like whatever. It's not, but to specifically go out of your way to put it out is not our custom, because we hold that of course, these reminds you of all the mitzvot of the Torah. I don't want to go off on a tangent on it, but you don't. If you want to get that inspiration, you could take it out from under your thing. It doesn't need to always be hanging out. Okay, חוטי הסיסית שיסלחו זה בזה, מותר להם בשבת. Okay, this is also very important halacha. This is actually very important halacha. He says, let's say the strings, and this is so good and glorious that we could do a video here, we could show it. Let's say the strings get like mixed up and it looks mishkababel. Are you allowed to untangle them on Shabbat? Yes, you're allowed to. But you're not allowed to like tighten, because you know, one of the things that's for 39 things that's forbidden on Shabbat is to make a blind knot, like a double knot. So to tighten and loosen the knot, you're not allowed to do on Shabbat. You should do that on Friday or before, you know? Oh, parenthetically, Shabbat is such a holy day. In the yeshiva world, we have everything that we own. We have a special one for Shabbat. We have a special hat for Shabbat, black hat. Special talit is a mitzvah to have for Shabbat. I even have a special talit katan that I just wear for Shabbat. A special suit, a special tie, like special, you understand? Because Shabbat is like something above and beyond. Okay, this is the interesting halacha. Let's say your big talit, it's like, let's say slippery. You know, some of them are like a style, even though it's wool, it's slippery. And like the thing you're wearing is like a silk suit. Yeah. It falls off your body. Do you need to say bracha again when you put it back on? He says, if the Shulchan Aruch actually holds you do. Did you know that? Let's say like you're walking and then your string of your sisit gets stuck and it falls on the ground, your whole talit gadol. The Shulchan Aruch holds, now that you put it on again, you should say bracha, because you didn't take it off to put it on, right? It happened against your will. But it says our custom is, this is actually one of the cases we don't follow the Shulchan Aruch. Because by parenthetically, Sephardic are overwhelmingly cautious not to say a bracha unnecessarily. Because we hold like the Rambam that if you say a bracha unnecessarily, is like you said God's name in vain, which is this week's parsha, 10 Commandments. Learn this, guys, so you become Talmid Chacham. Safek berachot lahakel. You know what that means? Safek means a doubt. Berachot, whether saying a bracha, lahakel. We go lenient. Which we see, you also have to understand. The rabbis were the person that invented the bracha. From Torah law, there's no such thing as a bracha. You just do the mitzvah without saying a blessing. You know that. So therefore, if you're not sure you're 100% you're fulfilling the mitzvah, it's better not to say the bracha, just do the mitzvah without. You understand what I'm trying to say? So it says, halovesh talit katan al begadav en hasisiyot mechutzot v'chen halovesh talit kadosh ha-mitzvah en lo להכניס בהם לבית כנסת, אבל טלית קטן שמוסר תחת בגדיו מותר לו. This is a question you asked me 10 times. He says a big talit, unless you're able to hide it under your winter coat, it's disrespectful to walk into the bathroom with it. So that's why in every normal shul they have like a hanger, like a coat hanger. But a talit katan you are allowed to. But what you can do, some people are very paranoid because this has the name of Hashem, right? It's 26 and plus 13, right, which means Hashem Echad, God is one. So what you can do is just go like this. If you could just take it and do that on the four corners if you're uncomfortable. But you are allowed to enter the restroom with your Talit Katan. Okay? Just 3 more halachas and we're going to be done. It says, יש להקפיד שכל 8 החוטים של סיסית יהיה ארוכם לו לפחות מ-12 גידולים. It says, it's important when you make your talit, and this is why important, a lot of people that buy these silk, cheapy talits, it's not kosher. It should be at least the size of 12 thumb. So that's how big this string should be, which is approximately 24 centimeters. Right? So if a big red flag that the talit wasn't made kosher, if it has like a small tiny string, it's like this big. Yeah. Instead of being this long, you know? And by the way, you should know there's another halacha. This part, the knot part, should be 1/3 as long. The hanging part should be 2/3 longer, proportionately. Because he says A lot of people hold that if the strings of your sisit are not 24 centimeters tall, you haven't done even the mitzvah b'diavad. And every time you say a bracha, you're saying a bracha in vain. Right? So he says, "Ve'im and lo chutim arukim kol kach yikatzer mispar chaliyot shelo yaseh kriyot cholot kenahog." So he says, by the way, our Sephardic custom is that we do not in the knots. We do 7, then we do 8, then we do 10, then we do 13, and then it's a double knot, and it comes out to be 39 knots, which is God is one, Hashem Echad. He says, let's say you're stuck in the middle of Kalamazoo, and you don't have Timbuktu, and you don't have a long thing. He says you should go. It's so important that this part should at least be 24 centimeters, that you should even put less knots in order to ensure that this is 24 centimeters. And he says, so what you could do if you're missing, you could do 10 knots, then 5, then 6, and then 5, which is just the name of Hashem. And that's kosher. Talit shel shutvin chayav b'sisim, shveshotef goy chayav b'sisit, mitzvat sisit hu mitzvat aset shazman gama. So he says, women and are exempt from the mitzvah of wearing a talit, right? Baruch Hashem, we're not reformed, deformed. We do not. Actually, you should know. The Targum Yonatan ben Uziel. You know, the Hillel had a student. His name was Amuka. Did you ever go to Amuka? It's a segula to go to his thing to get married.
No, I didn't.
It's right near Rabbi Shimon is buried. Yonatan ben Uziel was the greatest disciple, student of Hillel. When he would learn Torah, he was so holy that if there was a bird that flew over his study hall, it would burn because the fire of Torah would come. So he actually interprets that, you know, it's one of the 630 commandments is that a man is not allowed to dress up like a woman, and a woman's not allowed to dress up like a man. That's why we don't wear skirts. So he says, what does it mean that women shouldn't dress up as a man? She shouldn't wear sisit and tefillin, because that's a manly mitzvah. You understand? So he says women should not do that. And also it looks like a woman is haughty. She's a smart aleck. And you have to understand, there's a very important thing. One of the holiest books we have, which kind of looks like X-rated, is Shir HaShirim, but actually it's like the deepest meanings of Torah. It's like it's the love. It's a love letter between God and the nation of Israel. It says, he says, Shlomo Melech says, if you don't know how to do a mitzvah, go and look at the feet of the sheep. Because Abraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov are like, so Judaism is based on tradition. Tradition is everything, right? As long as it has a strong basis in halacha. So I'm very sorry, but for the last 2,000 years, none of our holy women were wearing sisit. So now even if a woman has the most purest of things, she's a feminist, and she's going to be punished for wearing a sisit and tefillin, you know? Even if she has the purest of motives, it should not be done. Because for the last 2,000 years, we know that it wasn't done by any of our holy women. And he said, Kabbalistically, it's not important for them to do it. Which means it's sad that on the fringes of modern orthodoxy, they call it open orthodoxy, there's a movement to start doing these things. But it's wrong. It's not kosher for women to do it, you know. He says, let's say, God forbid, it's sad, but, you know, our history, throughout the history of Judaism, a lot of people were poor. So you only have enough money to buy sisit, talit gadol, or tefillin. Which one should you buy? Tefillin. You know that. But he says, if you're 100% sure that you could borrow the tefillin every day, because in like the shul, they have a very good pair that's, you know, it's kosher and it's not like smashed up and whatever, then you should buy sisit. But unless you're 100% sure that you're going to have access every day of your life to the thing, tefillin takes precedence. Chazak Ubaru.